You're tuned in to the Rap Lizards podcast. You could check us out at theraplizards.com. You could also find us on YouTube and all podcast streaming platforms. Give a like and subscribe if you can. And please enjoy this episode.
Three, 2, 1.
All right. Welcome back.
Is that a prank? Is it a prank?
No,
Is that what you're doing? Is it like Nahar with the doot-doot-a-loot-doot? And then...
No, we actually use it in editing.
I know.
Yeah.
All right. Ready to rock, guys? Cool.
Doing it, man.
All right. Welcome back to the Rap Lizards podcast, the only show where two Jews and a Guyanese kid talk about hip-hop. Guys, I know you were just dying to hear us overanalyze another hip-hop album. You were waiting for me to give some weird factoid and go really far into my opinions and make you uncomfortable. I'm sorry to disappoint. Today we're taking a detour. A good reason for a detour today, though. We are joined by someone who, in my opinion, is an underground legend. We're talking about a man who has identified as Luke Sky with the blast shield down. We're talking about a man who is the one true king of this 1-2 thing. One half of the rap duo CZARCAST. One half of 7L and Esoteric, the Esoterodactyl, Seamus Ryan. We are joined by MC Esoteric. Esoteric, thank you for coming. It is an honor.
Thanks for having us. Me.
The royal we.
The royal we.
Thanks for having the rap duo Czarface. All right? And it's a trio. 7L's part of Czarface too, all right? We're off to a really bad start, Benny.
I'm sorry.
Got to get the taxonomy right.
It's an honor, man, honestly. It's really cool that you're doing this with us. Thank you.
Oh,
thank you.
Cool. Well, yeah, I'm happy to do it, man, and I'm thanks for having me.
Of course, man.
No doubt.
How's your quarantine going?
It's going pretty well today. Actually, I had my first COVID test earlier in the week. At my doctor's recommendation, it was negative, so I was happy about that.
Was it one of those that invaded your brain like all the way up the nostril, or is it one of the? Yeah.
Oh wait. Or one of the what? There's another one?
I had one that was way more gentle. It was
less invasive, yeah.
Yeah.
I met a guy on the street who, if you give him a high five, he'll tell you right away.
No, well, I had a lot of trepidation because everyone makes the association with the swab in the brain. And I said, this is going to suck. And my wife looked at me with the most disgust that she's ever looked at me, like I was the biggest wimp, selfish wimp in the universe.
Yeah.
And said, go take the test. And I was going to take the test. But when I went to do it, the nurse that swabbed me, the first thing she said, she's like, "You're nervous, ain't you?" And I was like, I'm not nervous at all. And but it was I think it was somewhere in between gentle and invasive. But it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. And it was a negative test, so grateful for that.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear it, man. I've had ones that I felt like they were like assaulting me. It was rough.
So you've had a few tests.
Yeah, they've had a free testing site down in my neighborhood, so pretty good. Good to go there. I think we should start this with the burning question on I think all your fans' minds. What did you think of the new Mandalorian episode?
I thought it was rather lackluster.
Really?
Pretty disappointing. No, of course not. That was far and away, in my opinion, the best. That was the Star Wars that was the Boba Fett that I sent away for with my proof of purchase way back in the day. That was the action figure that I thought was coming back to me. Was that guy right there that was chopping up stormtroopers left and right, smashing their helmets, and just all around ruthless.
Yeah,
I thought it was incredible how he glanced at the Razor Crest. You saw the opening, and you knew the armor was in there, and you knew what was going to happen next. You know, some of the Mandalorian can maybe fall victim to just a tiny bit of predictability, but I don't care. Let it wash over me. Right? This is what I want. You're giving me exactly what I want. And then he came out. Oh, but before he even came out, the Mandalorian and Fennec Shand were in the gunfight, and they started hitting with the real, like the dramatic part of the Mandalorian theme, and it was such a rush. I was like, Boba Fett didn't even have to come out yet. They were just like back to back like this with the music in tandem. Usually it's just the music. Yeah. They're not in action with the music, so it was like electrifying. And then Boba Fett came out, and just, you know, with the helmet on, which is like much more Boba Fett than Boba Fett with the helmet off.
100%.
It was the greatest. And then, you know, at the end with Grogu making a mockery out of the two stormtroopers, I couldn't have really asked for much more out of half an hour of television.
Didn't seem like in half an hour, right? It seemed like a lot longer to me.
It didn't. Well, you know, I was saying this to somebody, but I watched the show early in the morning so I can like exist on the internet without fear of walking into a spoiler, and plus because I really want to see it. But my main time for viewing it, like when I really want to enjoy it, is with my kid. And so that first viewing, I'm so careful to watch it on my phone that it feels like a long time anyway, because I'm sneaking around the house watching it. Because I don't want him to know I'm watching it. And we could talk about this for the whole hour or whatever it's going to be. And so it felt long to me on the first viewing because I was, you know, being careful about, like, my kids they're learning remotely. So they're both in their different classroom settings in different rooms. My wife's a teacher. So she's teaching remotely too. So she's downstairs teaching. And I'm watching Star Wars.
You know, they'd all rather be watching The Mandalorian. They heard it. They would
every single one of
them. Flip away.
Right.
There would be a gathering around your phone.
It isn't like I can just put it up on one of the TVs because, you know, he's going to stumble in and see it and just be very, very let down. But yeah, by the second or third viewing or so, I was like, wow, that's a quick episode. I loved it. You guys like it?
Jam-packed.
Fuck yeah, man. Hell yeah. I think that...
honestly, I'm on the fence about it, but I love the score.
Yeah, but you're on the fence about the show as a whole, though, right, Gary? Yeah. Not just the episode, right?
I'm on the fence about any Star Wars releases post the first 6 movies. Put it that way.
Okay. I can't believe you said first 6 movies. There's only 3 movies, all right? The original trilogy, all right?
All right, fair.
The prequels they've aged well, I think, at least in my house, because my kid he loves the prequels too, and you know, so they're on a lot. So I've warmed up to them, you know, and of course the good things that everyone liked about the prequels, I liked too, like, you know, Darth Maul, and, you know, I thought Jango Fett was cool.
It was cool.
Yeah,
it was the lightsaber
episode
fights.
3 as a total. Yeah,
totally.
Yeah.
They got that. What I like about The Mandalorian is the aesthetic is really beautiful, right? It's like another kind of Star Wars aesthetic. It's a little different, and I think the score is a nice avenue branching away from the main Star Wars score. Right. They took it in a really cool direction. It's like exciting. Like, I get goosebumps listening to it, even though I'm not like the biggest Mandalorian fan.
Ludwig Göransson. I don't know how to say his name, but man, whatever he did, he's up there with John Williams in my book, as far as what he's done with The Mandalorian. But yeah, I'm sorry, Gary, that they didn't hit all the right notes for you on this episode. All right, I don't know what else you want.
Can I tell you?
Gary, would it help? Would it help the fact that this last episode was actually directed by Robert Rodriguez? Did you guys
I mean, come on. Like, so I'd like to just say, we could honestly, just so you know, we could spend. Dion can confirm this. We could spend weeks, you know, if we never stopped recording, and I'd still be talking about Star Wars.
We're gonna move on. We're
gonna move on shortly. But I will say, I thought if I had a few takeaways from this episode, Robert Rodriguez should direct a Star Wars movie. Needs to happen.
Ooh, yeah.
I think he destroyed it, like just like not a bad beat in this episode. Boba Fett's dad bod was kind of surprising when he had the armor on and the belly was sticking out. But he was a badass. And I just think that it was a perfect episode. Who do you think Grogu was contacting? You think it was Luke?
No.
I
wish it was.
Me too.
I think it was Ezra Bridger.
Yeah,
or,
me too.
Or Cal Kestis. My son thinks it's Cal Kestis.
Cal Kestis.
Well, I mean, did you play the game? Did you play Fallen Order?
He does.
Yeah, I love that.
He does.
Game.
So
yeah.
He corrects me on some of the newer characters and stuff. He's quick to chop my head off with a fun fact when I think, I know what I'm talking about. But I don't care who it is at this point. I think they're gonna do it right, and I have to agree with you about Boba Fett's belly. It was a little disconcerting, but maybe that's Tamora Morrison's body, and what are they gonna do? Say, dude, you're like too fat for this?
Listen,
I
man,
don't know.
decades escaping the Sarlacc pit. You're gonna eat to celebrate, and you know the galaxy's not at war anymore. You got to relax and eat something, right?
Oh, totally. And maybe that was just maybe he doesn't even look like that, and that was a choice that they made to make him look a little bit comfortable.
Maybe
comfortable.
I doubt it, but maybe. Speaking of Star Wars, I think this is a great segue. Czarface just released an action figure with Super 7, very much in the Kenner 3 3/4 inch style that we all collected as kids. I certainly tried to collect them all. Hurricane Sandy screwed those collections up for me pretty bad, but
I got eyes on them before.
He saw my collection.
Closets,
Yeah.
You had two AT-ATs?
I was careful not to play with them. I was like, I didn't want to mess with them, and then fucking hurricane wrecked them.
Yeah. Well, at any rate, Czarface releases like a Kenner style action figure down to the cape around the character Czarface is very reminiscent of Vader's vinyl cape. Like really fucking cool, man. And they sell out like this. I couldn't even get one. I signed on and they were ghost on your website and Super 7's website. So, I mean, that's got to be the coolest feeling in the world, to be immortalized like with these things that you used to collect.
Yeah, definitely is. I was thinking about that. I was recording the CZARCAST episode earlier, and I was actually talking about that and how being a lifelong action figure collector enthusiast, and now being in the same, I know He-Man and Transformers, their legacy, those brands don't, they're just these gigantic brands, but Super 7 makes those action figures. Yeah. So there's like a world where Czarface can actually, fight Skeletor or team up with Soundwave or whatever there is, whatever you can do with your imagination. That's
wild.
Really nice to have that happen for sure.
Hell yeah. I can't imagine what it would be like to know that one of my characters was put into this like very familiar and like classic style of action figure. You had another action figure that came out years ago for Czarface. I think the guy's name was Sucklord. Is that right? That made it, and it was more like a Secret Wars style build. But I mean, these were like more mass produced, and they just flew. Were you surprised at how quickly they sold out?
I was, for the quantity, definitely. I was, I thought they would be around for a while. I was telling my friends and everything, like, don't worry, I got you, whatever. Just saying, because in the back of my mind, when Super 7 told me how many they were going to make, I said, oh yeah, no, that's great. Well, we'll definitely sell through those. And I wanted the figure to happen. That was my goal. And I knew they might eventually sell at that with what they made, but they sold out within minutes on our site. And then, a couple hours later on Super 7, it was just, it was pretty shocking, man. And, obviously felt great about it. And I don't know, it was unprecedented. I know that's a tricky word these days, but to apply it to an action figure, but it was,
I backed that, man. Unprecedented for sure. It was I was shocked. I was literally like, oh shit, it's sold out on Czarface. You posted available on Super 7 still, and by the time I got there, Ghost, and I was like,
gone too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I knew it.
yeah, there was a buzz around it when you teased it, and I was like, okay, man, fuck yeah, SO. Like that's sick.
It's a tough thing to gauge. You know what I mean? Because you can read a buzz by likes, or you can read a buzz by engagements. You can read a buzz by DMs. It's when you're in this bubble, so to speak, and you can't go out and do shows, and you kind of use analytics in a different way. And when we put out the Sucklord action figure and the following Killer Bootlegs action figure, those were all very limited because each one was handmade. So they went we sold them at the beginning for like $150 a piece. So they were much more limited. This was actually made, this is like not a bootleg figure. It's a real figure by a real company that's, not that they're, not to discredit anything else, because I love, you can make things from anything.
Right.
It's just, it hits different, as the kids say.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I feel it.
Can I say the Sucklord stuff is so cool? I mean, it just I'm not very I wasn't very familiar with their work before, but just the mixing of genres, the hot pink stormtrooper cast and the like Han Solo cast into a pizza pie Carmen, like just awesome, like super creative, super like I don't know, thought provoking.
He's really the pioneer of the whole bootleg toy industry. Sucklord is, as far as I'm concerned, and to come up with the gay empire with a whole garrison of pink stormtroopers is just, mind bending, and it was a big hit for him.
Do you have a favorite Star Wars action figure from like the classic Kenner era?
The pink stormtrooper.
I'm talking Sucklord. Kenner, baby, Kenner.
Yeah. Probably Chewbacca, just because I still have him now, like my original one, and Chewbacca is one of my favorite characters. I don't know. He's just, but I mean, Boba Fett, 2-1B, the medical droid. There's so many that you could really, I mean, don't make that face about the medical droid. He was a very interesting character with a very interesting.
He had the clear torso, right?
Yeah, in a kind of a microphone on his mouth.
I'm sorry to all the hip hop fans out there that are listening to us nerd out on Star Wars right now, but I only had one opportunity.
It's a lot of overlap.
Well, I feel like there's a bridge between Star Wars and hip hop in a way. So hopefully, I'm not sure what you did on your last podcast, but if you weren't talking about Tusken Raiders and gaffy sticks, and I apologize.
Yeah, it's okay.
You want to talk about SP-1200s and NPCs and shit? We can do that.
I'm not down with those.
I want to talk about what a Tusken Raider looks like, naked. That's what I want to talk about. Anybody know? What does a Tusken Raider look like without the ropes? What's under there?
You know what? I think they look like you and me, really. I haven't seen you naked yet, Gary.
They're definitely they've got like hipster mustaches and everything.
At any rate, I think that's a good time to segue into the music here. You're connected, SO, to this scene in hip hop that I've always been a huge fan of, the Boston scene, right? Is it as massive as other scenes? No, but it's produced some artists that are straight up legends. And like I'm a huge fan of yours, a huge fan of Mr. Liff, Ed O.G. Guru. The list goes on. So I'm wondering, I personally, when I find an artist that I really like, I get obsessed. I have to go all the way to the beginning, usually. So a few years back, I discovered this LP, the Rebel Alliance LP. It's actually on Spotify, which was shocking to me, which I can't believe.
Is it really?
Yeah, I found it on Spotify. I don't know who's making money on that. Sorry if I'm screwing, if I'm fucking up right now. But
that Spotify money, man.
Yeah. Well, I'm just wondering if you could talk about that era of your career, maybe a little before that, but like being in Boston, not being who, I would call you a certified legend at this point, but back then, what was it like putting together music, and like, how did you link up with Liff and all that project?
That Rebel Alliance LP, that was a release on Brick Records that was founded by Truth Elemental, Big Truth he goes by these days. But he had, I went to college with him. We had radio shows on Salem State College, and we play hip hop that, we appreciated, that we grew up on. Some more modern stuff too for that time. But I mean, a lot of the things that I would play would be, Main Source, Gangstar, Organized Confusion, Das Effects, EPMD, Redman. All of the artists that I'm sure the 4 or 5 of us enjoy.
Hell yeah.
And we formed a friendship and started making music. And then he put out a few hardcore records before, punk records, and knew the business a little bit of making vinyl. And I never looked at putting records out on vinyl as a reality. I just looked at it as, hey, look, you got to get a record deal, or you just don't make it, and people hear your cassette, and that's it. At that time frame, this is 96, maybe 95, 94, and he said, I pressed my own vinyl for my group and my band Intent to Injure, and I want to make some hip hop stuff, so let's put out a God Complex 12-inch. And that was the first time we were ever on vinyl. That was when 7L and Esoteric and Karma, we were God Complex. Then came the Rebel Alliance LP afterward, that when me and 7L just became the two of us as a duo, producer and MC duo. And it was a compilation that Brick wanted to put out, and I'm trying to bring it back to the other artists in a way. We recorded most of the tracks at Papa D's. He had a studio called Backpack Music, which was called Backpack Music before like Backpacker was considered before it had a positive connotation and before it had a negative connotation.
Right.
And it was just the name of his studio. And then it became a running joke because Backpacker became this stigma in a way.
Right.
We brought that up in past episodes too.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. And so Liff would come by. Who else was on there? Virtuoso,
I was gonna say, is on there, and a few of the other artists I'm not overly familiar with, but I did, Liff and Virtuoso were the two artists that I know you've worked with later on,
right.
also.
Yeah. Well, Architects of Intellect, which is AOI, that was Truth's group. So Truth is an MC in that group, and his partner RLA actually went on to be a really gifted cartoonist, illustrator, and. Trying to think, Tony Infamous. He was the only guy on that project that Truth had brought in from someplace else. A person that we had never met before, that he put down on the compilation through the internet, which was at that point was very strange. And we were like, who is this guy? And I emailed with him, and it's like we were still kind of like impressed with how email worked, And I was like, this guy Tony Infamous. He sounds like a badass, man. I think he was in Florida maybe. And he was, the rest of us all spent all our time together and hung out and recorded and, did open mics and whatever kids do at that time. But there was an outlier in Tony Infamous. And I think that part of the record and that right there might have been a very early indicator of how things would go in the future in terms of, people emailing tracks to one another or people sending beats out. There was never, back then when you got a beat, it was handed to you on a cassette or, a blank disc. And it's, obviously it's much different now where, you can go on YouTube and type in Czarface type beat. And there are people that make beats
exactly
that sound in that vein, and you can search for a beat, I guess. And if you like the beat, you can rip it and then just make your own song with it or something. Is that what happens?
See,
Yeah,
your shit was SoundCloud before SoundCloud, basically. is what it sounds like.
Okay, yeah.
And admittedly, we'll get to it, I think, eventually. I'm a huge 7L and Esoteric fan, and I actually recorded on my laptop years ago. I was trying to MC. Was never that good, but a few things that I listen back now.
Yeah, we all enjoyed it, Benny.
I would listen back now and I go, okay, I wrote that. That's pretty dope. And one of those was a beat for Speak Now, and I found it, admittedly, by downloading it. I pirated it. I found the instrumental. I downloaded it and I recorded myself to a verse, and I recorded a whole mixtape with. It was kind of like how Wu-Tang sampled Kung Fu beats, but I only sampled Bloodsport, but the Van Damme movie.
Oh, okay.
Dim Mac.
And yeah, the Dim Mac. It was called the Dim Mac Death Touch. A few of my friends heard it, and then it, I think it might be on YouTube somewhere. At any rate, so I can relate to that.
At any rate, you're part of the problem.
Yeah, I'm part of the problem. I'm sorry.
I didn't say it was a problem. There might have been a time in my life where I looked at it as frustrating, or just different. But I don't think it's part of a problem now. I mean, if I could put my stuff on YouTube, like our earliest stuff, and put it on, it would just be like magic. I would have no idea how that would work. And now it is so commonplace that. If you speak to kids that are 17, 18 years old, it's just second nature for them. And getting them to understand feel the gravity of what we did when we were making the Rebel Alliance LP, and then bringing the boxes of records to Fat Beats in New York, driving the actual records down there, and stopping at Fat Beats and stopping at Rock and Soul and stopping at Footwork and Bobito's Footwork and individually getting them to take the records. It's just very different,
100%. And I think that's one little piece of what's lost on like the consumption model these days, right? Like people they can't touch the record. They can't open. I'm a liner notes guy. I miss that. I miss opening and being like, oh, like, okay, this was, I would never know that, Busta Rhymes' real name if I didn't look at like who wrote his lyrics, me and Gary joke about that. We were like, who the fuck is Trevor Smith?
That was a mind blower. Who is this guy, Trevor Smith, writing all of Busta Rhymes' music? I'm angry.
But it's that's lost on this, now. And the other thing that really bothers me about the consumption that we like, it's just attention span. It's gone. Once a new project is dropped, the next time something new comes out, that other project you were just fucking with is forgotten. At least for like the younger generation, in my opinion, that's what I notice.
It's very tough to put it in perspective. There are so many albums that are so personal to me. And it's tough for me to, if I really think about it, gauge how much value I had in the music versus how much time I spent playing the music and associating it with life experience and things of that nature. Where right now I could stream an album. I just listened to this morning on a walk. I listened to Homeboy Sandman's new album, which I thought was dope.
Is that the one he did with Dion, or there's another one after that?
No, there's a new one he did with somebody else, but it's called Don't Feed the Monster. And I thought it was dope, man. I saw one of his videos for it, so I checked out the whole album. Now, am I going to spend the next month with that album because it's the only thing I have on cassette, and am I going to grow with that album? I don't know if I am. You know what I mean? But it's a great album. But shit moves so fast today.
It's a sign of the times.
Back in the day, you'd buy a cassette or buy a CD, and you would live with that record for a little while because you just paid for that record, and you're going to, get your money's worth, and you'd learn the lyrics, and these things would become second nature. Like you said Busta Rhymes, like, the Leaders of New School albums, and his first few albums. No, those records were just his lyrics were just ingrained in your brain after a while because you spent so much time. You could not escape them really either. Now, with his new album, I know I'm sure it's available on vinyl and CD and everything too, but I listened to it, it's dope, and I don't know how often I'm going to go back to that.
Right.
I don't know. What's going to bring me back to it? I'm not going for a ride with my friends. I'm not. It's just different, man. It's just a different scenario.
And that's not the music. That's the problem. It's just how the world operates.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
All
All that stuff's changed.
Very strange.
It's kind of shifted to like sort of like single heavy, right? Like everything is now like single driven as opposed to album driven. Exactly like you were saying. So like back in the day, it's like you get an album, you get the CD, you pop it in, you're gonna listen to it at least like 5 times. You're gonna get ingrained in it. And to be honest, since doing this podcast, we kind of been doing that. Like it's kind of forcing us to do that with our old favorite albums, which is great. But in general, yeah, it's like you said. It's like, and I mentioned SoundCloud earlier too. And I think that's part of it too. Like it's just like everything is just single driven now. It's where it's like I want to get the quick hit. I want to get what I need for like the information, the music information I need from this track, and then I'm moving on to the next one because Spotify tells me to move on to the next one. You know what I mean? And like it's not necessarily negative. Like it's just the way the things are moving. But like it's kind of a shame, right?
Part of what seems to be missing, maybe just opening thought here, is like there might be a narrative or some kind of deeper concept on the albums that we're trying to listen to. I mean, there's certainly that's the case with your work, Eso, and with many of the during this project. To Dion's point, the format has been one of us picks an album that we really enjoy or is interesting in some way, and then we spend a week listening to it, and then we all talk about it. So we do actually get through it multiple times. It's like a book club, exactly. It's just like a novel, right? That's not my regular way of listening to music. And just this morning, I got my Spotify like 2020 top playlist or whatever. Usually, looking back a couple of years, it's like it was pretty corny, right? I mean, not corny, but like very predictable and very consistent from year to year. My music, kind of stays consistent unless Dion or Ben or Nate kind of nudge their way in and they're like, "Yo, listen to this, you basic whatever," right? But this year was actually very interesting.
Yeah. I was going to touch on that. I'm trying to think of what I was going to say now. I lost it. But when you said the Spotify year-end list, mine can't be. I let my daughter run away with the phone. So my spot, it's like it has JoJo Siwa and Princess music and some hip hop or whatever.
That's so sweet.
Every once in a while, I will. I'll check out some of the Czarface stuff for lyrics, like to reference older songs for one reason or another. And that was on the top played too. So I was like, I can't share that I don't listen to Czarface, but it looks like I do. For as often as I use Spotify, it would look like I just listen to my own music, which is truthfully a fate worse than death for me. I can't do it. I could listen. And I guess that's one of the good things about being in a group with Deck. I can listen to Deck all day.
Hell yeah.
And but then I come in and I'm like, why did I say it this way or do this? So I don't listen to our own shit. But if you look at the Spotify thing, it looks like I listen to JoJo Siwa, the Frozen soundtrack, Czarface, and Salt or The Comet is Coming. So there are some bands in there that sneak in, but I don't know. It's just a different era now, which is great, and things are single driven, and people put a lot of work into projects that they, through some delusion of grandeur that I have too, we expect the people to let these albums resonate with them and marinate on them, and a lot of the times people make a 10, 12 track album, and the reality is, for most listeners, in my experience, 2 or 3 songs are going to grab the person if they like the album. And they'll say, I like that. I fuck with that album. But there's like 2 or 3 songs they go back to. And
it's
when
interesting
you're making
to
an
hear
album,
that.
you want them all 12 of these songs are fire. So you expect everyone to like everything. And I'm starting to learn that, it's just not the case. You're not going to please everyone,
Right. Well, I think you're doing a damn good job with Czarface at least giving yourselves the best shot for people to listen the whole way through, right? Like, it's evident, right, that thought is being put into, like, okay, these interludes, right, they're gonna carry some form of narrative. They're, you're gonna be I think the listener is engulfed into the cartoonish superhero world of Czarface, between the wrestling interludes and the, the cartoon samples and all that stuff. I think you guys are really giving yourselves the best fighting chance to have the listener engaged from start to finish. I know I'm an album guy, right?
Yeah.
I will never put on a playlist. I think it's, unless I'm at a party, I'll maybe make a playlist. But like, if I'm listening to music, it's because I want to listen to an album, not some song and then another song by another artist. That, to me, that actually drives me nuts. Like, gotcha. Listening to playlists. So you gotcha. Do, Czarface kills it with the total listen. It's an experience,
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. And I'm sure we're gonna spend some time on Czarface, a little later, because we're all huge fans. You see Dion's vinyl back there. I got the shirt. We're in it.
It's funny, Ben. We were just talking about listening to your own stuff on Spotify. So, and like, I have a Czarface shirt, and I'm like, yo, do I want to be the dude that wears the Czarface shirt when I'm interviewing Eso? I was like, no. Let me actually. This one's actually pretty dope.
That's
the Killmonger.
That's dope. That is hey,
Auntie. Dope, right? It just got me thinking. That's funny, Ben.
I'm that guy
line from that movie. What a movie! It's just too bad.
Oh my god, what a film, man. R.I.P. Chad.
Yeah.
If it's okay with you, I'd like to examine a few things that you did in the past, right?
Okay.
After a bunch of great albums, in my opinion, Sole Purpose, Dangerous Connection, etc., you ventured off into MC Esoteric, doing your own thing, and I'm, by the way, those albums I just mentioned, they're on our list of like albums to do a full episode on. Like, just like,
please don't.
Well, all right, but I'd like to talk about Esoteric versus Japan, the Pterodactyl Takes Tokyo, because that was an album that, when it was introduced to me by my friend Eric, shout out Eric, he actually put me onto all this other shit you were doing. E-Rock the God, what up? That album, I put it on, I go, holy shit. Like, he just took, like, everything I heard from Esoteric before, he just kind of, it seemed as though you took a left turn and, like, we're trying to do something really unique, and just different, what did you just start producing at that point? I know Server Suffer was your instrumentals, it was really cool, but when did you start picking up the producer's mantle, and what drove you to make an album so crazy like that?
I think 2005, because I was working with, I was doing 7L and Esoteric stuff, Bars of Death. We had just finished Bars of Death, and I was the Demigods. We were making a lot of Demigods music, I think, at that point, but I don't know if we were making a lot of music, but I was in touch with Self-Titled all the time. And, he was coming up from New York and Tampa and staying at the crib. And he was like, you can record here, And I'm like, oh, yeah. And I go to a studio and, do my shit with the engineer. And he's like, no, you can just do it here. And I was like, yeah, nah, I can't even wrap my mind around that. Who's gonna engineer the session, And he said, no, you engineer the session, you do the whole thing. And I was like, no. And but in the back of my mind, I was like, this would be pretty cool to have my own setup and do my own thing if I could just get through the learning curve. And Self was like, listen, I'm gonna come up and stay at your house, apartment, and we're going to get this thing up and running. And we're going to go to the, it wasn't Target at the time, but Radio Shack, wherever you would get, the materials. We're going to go buy these things. You're going to buy this mic at Guitar Center, and we're going to set it up. And you're going to be doing this now. And I'm going to show you how to do this. And I was apprehensive, but he came over, spent a week at the house, and taught me how to make beats really from scratch, and taught me how to record myself.
That's awesome.
I'm a little older than him, and better looking, so I don't want to act like he's my tutor in this sense. But he definitely, he's the one that opened that door for me, and taught me how to do my thing with production. And then it was me using the resources that I had, which was a lot of old, on DVD, bootleg DVDs like the Japanese Spider-Man and other sources to make beats with. And I was still learning how to adjust tempos and make certain loops or things fit with certain tempos. There were things that I heard that were so beautiful that I wanted to sample, but I couldn't get it into that area where I felt comfortable rhyming on. And I was figuring out the tempos and all that type of stuff, really like from scratch. So I'd make a beat that, was 140 beats per minute. I'm like, shit, I can't make this sound like, get into this like gangstar tempo of like 94, 95 beats per minute. So I better learn to rap like that. And that's just what I would do. Like a lot of those things on the Esoteric versus Japan, if I'm taking something that might sound like it's from Godzilla, was a faster tempo or just a different vibe entirely. But I was trying to adapt to what I liked hearing and put my own voice on it. So I think the end result was kind of a filterless record of just me making the beats, being happy with the beats, and then saying whatever I wanted to on top of them to complete the record.
I thought it was awesome, man.
Oh yeah,
honestly.
Thanks.
I thought being familiar with your work prior, right? It's like it's almost like wow, like it's like it would be like hearing Jerry Garcia play heavy metal or something like that. It was like a really different approach to to your rhyme styles on top of production. It was really cool.
This is Apathy calling me here now.
Oh, wow. Shout out Apathy, AOTP.
You must have, what do I do? Just hit that? Decline? Is that it? That's all I got to do. All right.
We got to keep that in.
All right.
It's too good.
He's usually a FaceTime guy, and I'm not a FaceTime guy, so he'll just ambush me out of nowhere. And, and I'm like, I'm just getting out of the shower, man. You're like, what are you? But this was just a call. But I forget where I was going with my train of thought, but the Jerry Garcia playing heavy metal, that's funny. I don't know. It was just me being in my own, without any external influences.
Yeah.
I was just in my own lane or own zone at that point for Ego Clapper, Esoteric versus Japan, and Saving Seamus Ryan. Those three records, and there were a few in between, like kind of like that Serve or Suffer, where that's just me in the apartment working by myself with nobody else. And I had a few features on these records, but they came by the crib or whatever and recorded. And I don't know. It's all in the past now. But now, since we reissued the vinyl of those things, those memories have been coming up more frequently for me.
I know you've been asked. Okay, you re-release the vinyl. Where's our streaming? When can we stream this? When can we stream this with Eso versus Japan? So when can we stream it? No, I'm just kidding. Let me answer. Go ahead. I'd like to hear your take on this.
It's a common question. When are we going to stream it? And with that, I really want to stream it. I really want people to be able to listen to that at their leisure. However, we put the vinyl out. It did what it did, and I feel fulfilled in that sense that now people can get it on vinyl. If I put it on Spotify, there's just a small gamble of, there's a lot of samples on that. A lot of samples from a lot of strange places. Yeah. And putting it out on vinyl and shipping it out on vinyl all across the world to the microcosm of vinyl enthusiasts and collectors that would want that and enjoy it for what it is different than putting it on Spotify and then the son of the composer that made the music says, "Hey, Dad, that's your music," and then I got a lawsuit. So it's just
I get it.
It's a gamble, and it's just I don't know if I'm really willing to take right now. I've thought about it because we've had different lawsuits before for sampling, and it's not fun.
Well, you do get to people like Ben. Ben will get that shit from the bottom of the ocean if he has to, right? And I'm sure there are others like him. I'm sure there are others like him. Many.
Well, that's a lot of why I'm doing this today, because I know that I don't do a lot of these podcasts. I get asked a lot, but I listened to parts of your Every Hero Needs a Villain podcast, and really appreciated what you guys thought of the music and stuff, and so here we are, all friends.
Thank you.
Yeah,
yeah, man.
We appreciate it.
It really, means a lot to us, man. You mentioned Saving Seamus Ryan, another album that I really think needs celebration. That was the one, when I heard that album, I said, holy shit. Like, here we go with a full narrative, start to finish concept album where I'm not lost once. I could follow the story in my head. Not a dud track on it. Like, and to me, concept albums can fall flat on their face sometimes, but this one really landed for me. How much of that was based on real life experience, or was any?
I think there was probably a lot of it. You know what I mean? It was in a very surreal context, but a lot of the references and everything come from a very real place. It was a different way to express how, crazy the music industry is, real life is, dogs are, and I think it's too dreamscapey in a way to say it was all real, but I mean, a lot of it just kind of came from life experience, but I didn't, take too many liberties with like any falsehoods. I don't know. I haven't heard the album in a long time.
So let me take you through a scenario in the album, and I'm hoping it's not true. When you get roughed up for the ring and you have to go seek out revenge.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's not true. No. That's part of the story. Yeah. See, even with that record, man, it's funny with the samples and stuff, So advisor indie solo, it's every sample is from Harrison Ford. So I took every movie that Harrison Ford's ever done just about and taken little bits and sound bites and tried to have some type of a dialogue with him. And he had a character. There was a character in, it wasn't The Fugitive, I don't think, but this guy Benny Macco. So I was like, okay, Benny Macco is going to be the villain in this, right? And that was played by Blackistan. And, and Blackistan just got a new puppy, and his wife named the dog Benny. So I was like, it's Benny Macco. See, it's all connected. But no, I think his wife named the dog. But it's just funny how little things kind of go full circle in that sense.
Hell yeah. Great album. I mean, I'd say to anyone listening, if you haven't heard those two albums, SO versus Japan and Saving Seamus Ryan, do what you can to find copies of it. It is well worth your time.
I got a question actually. Transition.
Go ahead, Dave.
Speaking of Esso versus somebody, so obviously you work with Kool Keith, you work with Doom. Both of them have alter egos, like sort of alter villain sort of characters, right? Technically, Czarface is an alter ego of you, Deck, and 7L. You guys see adding future characters to your repertoire, like for example, like you guys are already Czarface. You guys see like your next album maybe being a whole new character that you guys are now playing. Like maybe it's you guys plus another person, or maybe it's you collaborating with something. Like you see anything like that in your future?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I've been pushing that since the beginning, but when in the comics there are different characters that are part of like the Czarface universe.
Exactly.
Which is a very small universe, but I'm trying to think of what I can say and what I can't say as far as
exactly.
No spoilers.
No, I know. But see, Czarface has been for us, it's been a very successful venture, and we look at it as, we're fortunate enough to where, me and Deck have, obviously Deck, but we've been in 7L, we've been around for a long time, right? So we have this long discographies. Right. But we've been fortunate enough to have a fan base that looks, or part of the fan base that looks at Czarface as a brand new thing.
Exactly.
And which it is. It's whatever, 8 years old now, but that really looked at Czarface as this new artist.
For sure.
Sometimes people think Czarface is one person, and they don't realize that there's two people rhyming, or there's the hardcore fan, and then there's the casual fan. Like, I listen to Czarface, somebody will say he's the best or whatever, and it's like saying
Steely Dan's the best.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. But with me, when I hear that, I'm like, good, that's great, I'm happy. Now doing that again with another character, it's it's a gamble. It might not pan out the same way, but we have had many conversations about doing that, and we've had some things in motion. And I will say, and I know Deck and 7L will agree, if I had it strictly my way, it would look like the fucking Justice League. And
That's
you would
what
have,
I was going for, yeah.
yeah. But to have each character hit on the same level of success that Czarface has is a gamble. So
Sure.
when you make that type of investment to making the records and everything, it's tricky. But I think you'll see something else in the future.
Okay.
That's Czarface related, and part of the Czarface universe that isn't Czarface. I just can't really talk about it now. But I'll say this: there's at least 3 different records that are in motion, in discussions, and hopefully one of those things will grow into an enemy of Czarface or an ally of Czarface or something. We'll see.
Start out as an enemy, do the team up, then allies.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you feel about experimentation? I guess this. It's a treat to be able to speak with somebody who's had eras in their career and in their creation of art, and I could count on my fingers how many how many musicians I follow in this way that have this kind of catalog. But experimentation seems to really play into it for some people, right? Like Dion mentioned Cool Keith, and Keith comes up with all kinds of characters, and some of them are really catch on, and some of them for one reason or another don't. And Keith seems to be the risk or the downside of risk seems to roll off of him like water on a stone. Seems to not care, although I've never met the guy. I'd love to. How do you feel about risk of kind of creating new characters, like the downside of it?
Well, I'm willing to take the gamble, but Czarface is a 3-4 person entity, and there's a lot that goes into making the records happen. So, I would turn. There's a guy in one of the Czarface comic books named the Rot Styler, and Rot Styler is a villain of Czarface, and I'm writing a comic book now, actually a graphic novel that shines a little bit more light on the Rot Styler, and I would love to bring him into the fold musically. And it's tricky because what you do with Deck and 7L and me, you want to do it again with somebody else, but you don't. It's just. I'm willing to take the risk, but I know what you mean with Cool Keith, because he does have so many different personas, and he is such. I'm trying to think of the word prolific.
He's like the Frank Zappa of hip hop, in my opinion. Just like 40 albums, different vibe on each one of them, and just so hilarious and pornographic. Like he's just like he's one of our heroes.
Well, sometimes he's like not, like sometimes he's just on the ball in such a way that is mind blowing. So this song that you guys did back in right around the time that you started producing more of your stuff at home, I think, right around like 2006 ish. You did that song Daisy Cutter with Keith.
So good.
What was that experience like to like work with Keith when he's like? I mean, seems maybe he's always in the zone, but I think especially then you guys were on the same page and you guys were all kind of on this wavelength. What was that like?
It was excellent because I'm a lifelong fan of Kool Keith, and I know the different Kool Keiths, and what he gave us on that track is everything I wanted Kool Keith to do on a track with us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think there is with Keith, when you listen to the first Ultramagnetic MCs records, like you had said, he's hilarious, right? A lot of those records, they didn't. When you were listening to him, I didn't find him as hilarious. I found him as different. You know, he's just different. This guy's like, just him and Ced G. They're just like from outer space. Just
From outer
a bunch
space,
of crazy
just
shit,
Ced G,
right? And I think what's it called? Porno Star on Funk Your Head Up. Might have been.
Oh yeah, I know that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he got into the real explicit sex shit until Sex Style.
Sex style.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but then now he's dropping records like on Instagram with just completely over the top sexual innuendos and stuff, and in an era where this type of thing can really get you canceled.
Yeah,
But Kool Keith doesn't.
He's immune to it
he's
by now.
Yeah,
He's got the
immune to
antibodies.
cancel
He's good to go.
Yeah.
He's got his helmet on. You can't tell him he's not out of space.
Right. So with Daisy Cutter, that was a one of the songs I produced that was on A New Dope, and it was a fluke how the beat kind of came together, but I was really happy with it. It was up tempo, it was like 112 beats per minute, and I knew that type of tempo, when you have a beat at that speed, some of the the rappers that really flourished in the late 80s, early 90s,
Right.
Keith being one of them, when they're on a tempo like that, it brings an energy out that I think can get lost if you're in somewhere within like an 86, 87 BPM range. It's just that could be something in my head. But when Keith got in the booth and did that, he was like, "Yo, man, that was a lyrical workout." And it was just these two, I don't know, mundane lyrical workout. It's just a very simple thing, but when Kool Keith says it, it just I don't know, it just golden.
Different.
He's like, "Hey, that was like a lyrical workout."
That's dope.
And that's so cool to hear that you guys were in the studio together too.
Yeah.
Because that's something we talk about a lot, right? Yeah. Sometimes it's very noticeable. Okay, they were in two different states making this song, right?
Yeah.
But that's like, it seemed as though you guys were in the same studio, but that's so cool to hear that you were in the booth or you were in the studio with Kool Keith. I mean,
yeah. Cool. Keith is a very interesting guy, as you might imagine. I mean, he's that's not an act. You know what I mean? He's just a unique guy, and he's just a brilliant guy. And we're gonna do more records in the future.
Oh, incredible!
Great to know.
That's like the best news I heard.
Yeah, totally.
All day, man.
That's awesome.
Dope.
I hope so.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah. No, that's that's on the table. And I've spoken to him this year about it multiple times. But yeah, there's an aesthetic that can be captured being together in the same room, and sometimes it gets lost. And I think sometimes you can make a record over email that coalesces in a way that would fool you, but the artists have to really be on the same page. And there are times where you can tell that they were not. And I don't know why. I mean, I don't know. There are some records that I hear where I just accept it as a reality that somebody had emailed their verse over. I mean, that's just how so many records, like from the biggest selling records, it's.
We kind of pride ourselves on
days.
being able to tell. Right, just as like listeners that are very engaged, we're like, oh, these guys were in the same room making this music, or this feels like it was planned out and executed, remotely.
Right. And I have to assume that really is the CZARCAST recipe, I have to imagine you guys are together for most of it. Is that correct?
Me and Deck, definitely. Me, Deck, and 7L. Yeah.
It's so clear, you know.
Yeah. Cool.
You can't replicate that, right? Same thing when you listen to Midnight Marauders. You know, Tip and Fife were bouncing off of each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the I know you. Thank you for correcting me. It is a trio because 7L is the producer and he does such an incredible job. But that rap duo energy, right? It's hard to replicate bouncing off of each other when you're not there together.
Yeah.
So I'd love to take a few minutes to talk about that because I mean, for me, I remember me and Dion used to be roommates. I remember when we were living in Brooklyn, and I remember Czarface being announced, and I was like, holy shit, right? So like speaking real words, and I'm sorry, I forgot the name of the song from 1212 that you did with Deck also. But
you shouldn't forget the name of that one because we called it 12th Chamber.
Okay.
And it was like, it was a real ballsy thing to call it at that time. I was like, we're going to take a chamber? We're going to call it 12th Chamber? And, anyway,
So I remember like those two songs always stood out to me because I'm a Wu-Tang obsessive, right?
Okay.
Big fan of your work. And then I'm like, holy shit, Eso and Deck are like going to do this album together. I had no idea there was going to be sequels. I had no idea, but I just remember the announcement being
just
like
the first
being
one,
like being like, I was like, this was at a time where hip hop, I was not a big fan of things that were coming out in that year or those few years, and I got really hyped. And then the album, the first album, just exceeded expectations, and then every album since, it's just like you guys have a chemistry that really is remarkable. So I'm wondering if you could take us through like the decision to do a whole project together and what kept it moving forward.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, we didn't know there was going to be multiple albums either, but the first one was just a real gift in itself. Making that happen was just so surreal. I feel like, okay, we really liked how that album came out, and we can be done now. But why be done? In terms of like, hip hop accolades or milestones. We just made this character and made this record, and let's make another one. It was originally, I give 7L the credit with the idea for making a group with Inspector Deck, because I looked at that as, heresy. It just couldn't. It was way out of reach for us. And then when Deck said, he'll do it, I was like, what? He's going to do the record? He's going to do the record? And I was like, we had, as you said, we had just worked with him on the 1212 record, 12th Chamber, and he was asking for beats, and 7L was sending him beats. They were going back and forth. I don't know if he ever picked any of those beats, but we, just started talking more often, and we put that record together in Staten Island with Wu-Tang plaques on the wall and shit. And that was a little exciting for me as a fan too, driving over the Veras. I mean, you guys are closer to Staten Island than I am, but for me, it was very exciting. And first record came together, and we just got closer as friends and started making more records. And he spends a lot of time in Boston now, so
that's dope.
We're able to. I think the idea of getting in the studio together might, if we didn't do it that way all the time, there might be even more Czarface records. And I feel like we've made a lot in a short time as it is.
Yeah, for sure. But I think I'm grateful. Yeah, I mean, first of all, let's be clear. You guys have been very prolific.
Oh yeah.
In the short time you've been together. And I'm grateful that you make the effort to collaborate rather than just kind of pass things back and forth, because the finished product speaks for itself.
Well, especially because the finished product involves a sense of humor, right? Like sense of humor is hard to really dial in remotely, is it?
Yeah.
Like, it's like it's a chemistry that at least in my own experience. I mean, I'm just like, obviously I don't do any of this professionally, but the things that I most enjoy playing back are based on chemistry that was built in person.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for that, for sure. I think when your mission is to record a 16 for somebody or a feature, you can get into it and zero in on the task at hand, but for one or two songs. But when you're making a whole album, it just there needs to be a little bit of communication. And thankfully, me and Deck hit it off in terms of what we expect out of each other. Lyrically, we have a lot of common ground in terms of the way, pop culture things. I can't really speak about growing up in Park Hill projects, you know what I mean? And right. We have just a mutual affinity for the things we touch on Czarface. So that makes it work, man. Just hip hop. And he always says, like, it's a lot of fun working on Czarface records because it's a different energy than working on Wu-Tang records. Because he feels as though on, when he's making like a Wu-Tang record, he feels he has to be the, most hardcore motherfucker there can be. And when he's working on a Czarface record, he can kind of loosen up and, have a little bit of fun. And, I remember being in the studio and we were trying to finish, I forget the song that it's on now, but he references it a lot. He says, "Catch me slow dancing with Scarlett Johansson." And he's like, now see that, he's like, I could never say that on a Wu-Tang record, but I can say it on a Czarface record, And he was looking for a way to finish that record, man. And we sat in the studio. It felt like, and he's a guy that can come, sit down, write a rhyme, record it, one take, and it would takes him no time. It's like something I've never seen before, you know what I mean? And it puts a little bit of, a lot of pressure on me. And he's just a natural at it,
Sniper in the cipher.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like it. And all the guys that I've worked with, of course, Wu-Tang is in a different echelon than the guys, super talented guys that I've worked with my whole career. But he's just a machine. He'll go in and just different, man.
I believe it. To me, he is the unsung hero of Wu-Tang. Like, deserves way more than he accolades than the masses have given him. And I just think he's on those first several full Clan albums, he's the MVP in my opinion. He's the most technical, the most lyrical. He comes in and stands out on a track where you have these other Goliaths of hip hop, and I'm not knocking any of them. I love all of Wu-Tang, but I mean, if you listen to 36 and Forever, those two just legendary albums, all of the top tier verses are his in my opinion. Triumph, For Heaven's Sake, all of his shit on 36. He's a
I guess as a counterpoint to Benny's very educated perspective and Dion's educated perspective on listening to music, the way that I take music in is I'm the person that thinks, Czarface is one person or Steely Dan is one person, right? Typically that's the way that I take music in. That's okay.
Yeah.
But, it's after listening to the Czarface album and talking to it about it with these guys, I noticed for the very first time that Deck was kind of the feel of the Wu-Tang albums that I loved the most, and that definitely followed when you guys were making music together, as part of Czarface. That was a big surprise to me. I didn't realize that. Deck was a huge part of that.
That's a very cool way to see things, man. That's cool, man. That's awesome to kind of realize that at this point. And
it was definitely a light bulb.
He's the anchor on a lot of those songs, man.
To somebody who takes music in the same way that I do, it's I'm familiar with the guys who do the St. Ives commercials, right? We're just looking at a bunch of St. G-chatting a bunch of St. Ives commercials back and forth to another, and you have all these super super famous artists. But I don't know, did Deck do one of those?
I think it was
Wu-Tang
Method
scene.
Man and
Raekwon.
I don't think Deck was on the St.
Right,
Ives.
right.
Yeah,
Whoever
it
was on the
Raekwon,
St.
yeah.
Ives call list, okay, those are the rappers that I'm most familiar with. But I wasn't aware of some of the like core, elements of the sound, including Inspector.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
the
I
thing
feel that.
the thing with Wu-Tang, and you guys probably know this, some Wu-Tang shows are booked as Wu-Tang shows, but not everybody can make it.
Yep.
And they will go through sets without certain members, and it will go through, it'll seem like a seamless show. They can't do that without Deck. Deck needs to be there. Deck sets off so many songs. He's the anchor on many of those vital tracks. You know what I mean?
Hell
And,
yeah.
yeah, he gets his props. And now I gotta rap with the guy all the time, and it's a little daunting,
I imagine, I have to imagine it. So like it's evident, right? Being a lifelong Wu-Tang fan, Czarface brought out a whole new side of Deck that I never heard on any recordings until this. But I also have to imagine it brings out new sides of you. Is this something you could attest to?
Probably. It's I'm too close to it, I guess, to really
Okay.
zoom out and see, unless I really revisited the music. Which once it's mastered, I'll only revisit a song for a reference to something, just to see if we've said something or done something, or for, I don't know, one reason or another. But maybe if you hear something different, I don't know, because like our first record, that first God Complex record that we did in '96, that was the first thing we put on vinyl. One of the songs is called Secret Wars, and I'm rapping about Spider-Man and Vigilante and Galactus and all that shit. And here I am rapping about it now. So it's tough to really. Maybe I'm a little more comfortable now. I don't know, man. I'm definitely more proud of Czarface. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where
Should be.
I had some. Thanks. I had some. Maybe wrestled with our previous projects of the confidence that required, you know what I mean? Whereas Czarface, I'm like, hey man, this is what we're doing, man, and there's comic books and there's action figures and there's there's just it's a lot more to bite into, and I enjoy doing it.
Hell yeah, man. I'm thrilled. Honestly, thrilled that we have more Czarface on the way, more collaborations on the way.
Yeah, there's definitely
Not that I'm surprised.
stuff.
Like at this point, it's like I'm almost expecting once a year, like I'm gonna get some kind of Czarface release. It's like it's one of those things. It's like the iPhone release every September. Like I know it's coming.
Well,
Yet very much unlike.
One of our part of our business model is hitting the Record Store Day events. We have a great relationship with the Record Store Day people, and selling vinyl, as believe it or not, is still very profitable. Although it seems like vinyl's big right now as it is, but getting this stuff out, making those deadlines to come out to hit on Record Store Day is important to us and important to our distributors. So sometimes we hit the gas on a few projects, and in order to hit those dates.
Eso, we want to wrap things up by just asking you, is there anything that you got coming up, anytime soon that you want to promote, let the people know what's coming?
I would just say the CZARCAST, which is our Czarface podcast, is dropping every 2 weeks, and we have new music in 2021. At least 2 albums that are slated for 2021. One on the early side, but we can't really announce too many details of it. But that is we're on the cusp of dropping that very soon. And it was a record that was supposed to come out earlier, but we've all been a little bit sidelined by the pandemic, of course.
Hasn't been that.
Oh,
big
you
of a
too?
deal, has it?
That was just me.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
It's a sad situation all around, but
of course.
our music got delayed, you know.
Hey, just the fact that we're getting it at all, and like, it doesn't matter when it's coming out. Like, just the fact that you guys are working on it and working hard at it, even given all these restrictions, is like we appreciate it. Us 4 fans here on the other side, we at least appreciate it. Pretty sure everyone else does too. So you're good.
Word.
Hell yeah.
Word.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. We'd love to do it again sometime, and thank you for your time, man. It's been fucking awesome.
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely be happy to do it again. And
maybe next time you pick an album you love, and we could nerd out on it together.
Yeah, that's one thing. Yeah, when you had pitched me for the interview, you said, "What album do you want to talk about?" I was like, I thought you were talking about our albums, but you wanted to discuss other people's albums. And I'm like, what do I want to talk about other people's albums for? Let's talk about our shit. But
maybe next time.
Next time, yeah.
Exactly.
Any one of those. You gave me choices. Do you remember what the choices were?
I think I said Moment of Truth would be cool because Deck's on it. Guru's from Boston, and we're huge Gangstar fans on this end.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That would have been good to discuss. I wish you had brought it up sooner. No, I'm just kidding.
No, we'll do it next time.
Sorry, I
man.
that, but
you heard it here
time.
first, listeners. Yeah, man. Thank you again, and we'll see you on the flip side, man.
Okay.
For those people who stuck through to the end, you can check us out on theraplizards.com. You see all of our back catalog of episodes. We thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
Right. Peace, fellas.
Peace, guys.
See ya.
The Rap Lizards would like to thank our man Red Walrus for providing the beats and interlude music. Thank you so much, Fred. Check him out on Bandcamp, download his music, support a great artist.